so he's got a preferred rate of 9%.
That's what he's 9% to the investors.
Managing and operating partner.
See, so he's getting 9% because he's bringing 85%. He's basically coming in as a LP, 85% LP, and we're 15% GPs. And
yeah,
so
he's got a 9 pref on his. So let's see, priority 9% pref, second return of capital. Thereafter waterfall split. Okay. So in his additional expenses, he's got the basically 1.8 million paid out to them over 36 months. Okay, so that's a total fee there. Property management fee.
See, don't he have himself as the LP making that getting the 9% pref?
I mean, that's my understanding, right? Because he's bringing in the LP money,
right?
So and these are excuse me, these are probably some good things to jot down and maybe go back to him and just get some clarification on, just so we understand, exactly the structure there. But I mean, my understanding based on what he said and what I'm looking at is he's bringing the LP money, so he's responsible for the LP returns. We are the GP in this case, and so we get that appropriate allocation. So,
but we don't have any. So typically in a pref situation, he would get the 9% pref, and then does he say anything about their splits above that? I mean, like where is the GP getting paid? You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm missing. So that's the piece we need to know is like, what's the GP getting paid? So we know how we can, if we gotta bring so-called, we basically got to find GP investors, or whatever investors come in on the GP side, then we got to know what we're getting so we know what we can promise.
So he's got.
Was it 50-50 above that? I can't remember.
No, I mean, I'm looking at his promote structure. So, I mean, 8%, well, at least according to this hurdle one's 8% and 90-10 split.
90-10 to him? Or 90 to him? 10?
Yeah, 90% to the LP. So that's
wow.
That's the 8% return. But I don't know, but that's not talking about what's it done after the 9%. I mean, unless.
Yeah, that's what I need. So we need to find out about the split. So I need to ask him.
I would drop that one down and just get clarification on that portion of it. Because I mean, so it's hurdles. So 8% rate of return to 90-10 split at a 13% rate of return. It's 85-15.
Yeah, that sounds to me like that's the splits right there, and so that's 17%. The waterfall.
So I guess depending on what the return is, then it would be split out. I mean,
I just wonder if
the max is 60-40.
I wonder if that's annual. I wonder if that's annual or if that's like internal rate or need to fit
internal rate.
Internal rate.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, that don't sound very. I mean, because it sounds to me like we're going to be putting up the money and then not getting paid shit. We're going to be bringing 15%.
I think that's what we would need to get. We need to get clarification on just once. I mean, because it may not necessarily. I mean, we just need to get clarification on that. To say after the 9% prep is paid out, what's the general split after that.
It sounds to me like the waterfall you just give right there.
It may be that, but it's always good sometimes to just ask him something and see if he gives you a different response than what you're. Because if he comes back and says, "Well, it should be on that waterfall structure," it's whatever the splits are there, and they'll say, "Okay." If he comes back and say, "Oh, maybe it's 50-50 or something. I'm not down it's 50-50, but
so if he said, but if it is 10%, I mean, you're talking about the GPs getting 10%. I mean, what I'm worried about is that may not even be enough to cover, just even a basic return on the 2.5 million we're bringing to the table.
Yeah, you'd have to. Well, I mean, the biggest is the biggest flow of cash is going to come at the sale. That's where you're going to get your return. It's not going to be, like I said, or like we talked about, it's just like a develop or a new construction project.
What does he say?
Right?
The only thing, here's the reason why, because I'm envisioning this in my head. So imagine a 90 unit hotel, 3-story, 90 unit, 30 rooms per floor. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be, immediately we're going to be turning those every 2 rooms, we're going to turn into one, sort of 1-bedroom studio, whatever.
Right.
And so if that's the case, so as soon as we make acquisition, I would be looking to say, let's say we take the top floor. As soon as we make acquisition, say it takes us 3 months to turn 30 rooms into 15 apartments, say 6 months. So technically we only have 6 months to, say it takes 6 months to rehab 5 of those, and then you start leasing those 5 immediately. It's not a get done and then
you don't wait till the end.
Right. So it's an escalator. You know what I'm saying? Like you get one done. As soon as you get one done, you should be already starting to market those, or at least maybe the ones across the hall. So or groups of 4 maybe. That way you're not working right beside somebody that just leased a new apartment and they're going to be raising Cain about the noise and stuff. So say you do groups of 4 and you're going to be leasing 2, you should be able to get that done within 3 to 6 months. Let's say 6 months between 4 rehabs and, you have 4 units done, which would make, see if you had, so it technically be 2 units, whatever. Say it takes you 6 months to get going, and say every 6 months you get 5 done and leased. And so in 6 months, you're, say roughly, I don't know, just easy number, say $1,000 a unit. I mean, in 6 months, you should be cash flowing $6,000. The next, a year from there, you should be $12,000. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't even, honestly, I don't even think it would take that long, but, 6, yeah. Hell, I mean, it don't take that long to rehab those things.
So
say 6 months. Say 6 months of floor. I mean, I don't think it would take 6 months to turn 30 units into 15 studios. You know what I'm saying? I just don't see it. All the infrastructure's there. You're not having to do any load bearing. Everything's
right.
non-load bearing, stuff like that. So the zoning and stuff might be an issue, but let's say all that's done. Theoretically, 6 months you should have 15 times 1,000. I mean, that's $15,000 a month coming in within 6 months. And so. What I want to know from him is what I'm trying to think is that, he obviously is showing that, the LP is going to get the first 9%, the pref. And so 9% of, let's say 10% is 150,000.
No, so I'm looking at his pro forma model, and that's actually not done that way. I was looking at it that way while you were talking. So at least how he's got it in this pro forma.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is all stuff that we need to verify. So the GP and the LP split that 9% pref.
Oh, okay.
So at least according to his pro forma model.
So it's a 9%
GP
just preferred.
GP gets 15%, right? He has it in there as interest. He's, I think, treating it kind of like a debt.
Yeah.
Like a mortgage in a way. So in his example, right? So he's got, a purchase cost of $2.5 million, repair cost of $4.3 million. So total acquisition and repair 6.8. And then he's got additional expenses over the course of 36 months. One of them is he's got labeled as interest. And so the interest is $1.8 million, which is basically the 9% pref. On that 6.8 million. So that 1.8 million pref is actually split 85%, 15% between the LP and GP. So he's got the GP having 15% of that 9% pref. So in this case, about 275,000.
Okay.
And then looking at his waterfall structure. So this one, I mean, he did a little bit of an oversimplification. I mean, he basically just took, the projected sale price less the granule expenses. So that's, acquisition, renovation, and operating budget totaling $8.7 million. So the profit there would be just under $4 million, probably $3.8 million. And so he's just basically saying GP gets 40% of $3.8 million, which is, according to his waterfall structure, that's assuming an 18% IRR or greater. So far the GP gets 15% of the pref. In his model, 40% of the promote, which is just basically the profit on the deal.
Yeah.
And then he's got the property management fee and the construction management fee for the GP as well, which is, so he's got a 3% property management fee and 2% construction management fee built into it.
So let's run through this. So if we was to get, say in 6 months, we get, same example, 30 units combined for a 15 total rented. We get those, say we get those rehab, repurposed, rented, leased, whatever for the average $1,000 a month, whatever. I mean, that should put you about 15 grand a month within the first, even if it's a first year, I don't care. Let's just do first year, 15 grand. So I mean, that's 180 a year. Expenses on that should be, I mean, even if you do half, I mean, it's still 90 grand a year. And then you're saying that so at 90K, you've got a nine pref, right, out of that. So out of 90 grand, you got times 0.09. So 8,100 is right off the bat. Now we get 15% of that, right?
According to his, yeah.
As the GP. So the GP is going to get 12, 15. And then that's going to leave what? 90 minus 80. What's that?
That's 81.9.
81. So we got 81.9. Now, how is that split?
So 81.9. So let's see. So that's the operating income. Let's see. I mean, he doesn't have that part detailed out here. So the 81.9, so that would be operating income, which would theoretically, I guess, get split according to the promote at the time.
Yeah.
So
take it on the least amount. That way, worst case scenario.
Yeah, I mean, so 10% promote.
So we'd basically get 10% of 81.9.
I think so.
So that's 81.
Yeah, split, so 81.9.
And then plus our 12.15. So year one, we would have a 94.05. So if we were promising, here's what I'm looking at, reverse engineering, I guess. If we were promising a 10% return and we were like, hey, look, we're going to live off of construction and property management fees for the first year, whatever. I mean, at 10%, the most we can, what the hell is it? 94,000? Is that right? At 10%? Or no, I'm sorry. That's 940,000. I'm going crazy. So 900 and is that right? 940,000 times a 10% return is 94,000. No, hell no. That's 94 grand. So like we don't even have
94.
Yeah. So if we're bringing in 9,400 a year, because I mean that's a year. Because we get, this is based off of 180 grand. This is based off 50% expenses for some reason, whatever. That leaves 90 grand at 50, and then 9% of that's 8,100. which would be, we'd get 15% of that, which would be 1215, which would leave 81.9 as left over. And then if we only got 10% of that, it would be 8190 plus our 1215. You're looking at 9405 a year. I mean, that's shit. Maybe we could pay, maybe, I don't know, that ain't even hardly interest on, because we need 2.5 million.
Yeah, I mean, so I think for this one, like I said, we couldn't treat it like a value add. Like value add, you're getting a prep, and it's a steady cash flow play. I think we have to treat it like a development.
You just straight up say, look, no returns year one.
Yeah, I mean, I think you go into it saying, hey, your total return on this project is going to be 20% or whatever the case may be, and it's going to be lumpy cash flow. It's not going to be steady, and so it's the bulk of the payment's going to come in year 3 at the sale. What comes kind of in year 1 and year 2 is just going to be residual amounts. I mean, the bulk of it is going to come from. If I'm just looking at his deal here, yeah, almost 85% of the total cash flow to the GP is coming from the sale. So, which makes sense in this case. I mean, it's not going to be cash flowing like crazy now. For them, let's see. Yeah, for them it's about 60%, or 59% is the sale, and so that'll give about 41% of their total income coming from the pref, the cash flow from that. So let's see. So what is? I'm just kind of seeing what he's modeling in.
I mean, I guess we wouldn't technically need 2.5 then, because if we had, say, a 10 million acquisition, that's a definite 1.5. Like, there's no way to get around the 1.5 for the acquisition. But the rehab, if you're, say it's a $4 million rehab, then a repurpose budget, you're only going to need, if it's 3 floors, basically a third of that. So, I mean, we may be closer to like 2.
Yeah, I mean, so that's the other thing too, is like with this, it's the timing of the cash flows, right? Because you're not going to be contributing all GP capital day one, right? It's going to be spread out kind of over the course of the year as renovations take place, and so ideally, kind of as you say, once you get a floor done, so you've expended capital, completed floor 1. And then you're immediately, you're moving on to floor 2, so you're going to deposit capital for that. But at the same, almost, hopefully, in a perfect world, at the same time, you're leasing out floor 1. So you're starting to get cash flow coming in from that time. So it's not all cash flow up front. So you're not like just putting up one. I guess in this example, they have it as 1.3 million as the total GP contribution. So you're not putting up 1.3 million day one and then just sitting and waiting for that capital, right? So it's going to be dispersed kind of in tranches throughout the first year, and then ideally it's going to kind of be have an overlay of cash flow as you complete each level. So it is certainly possible. I mean, okay. I mean, you have to model this out a little bit just to kind of see, month to month over 36 months, like what's the cash inflow, cash outflow, and how does that match up? But I think that, so from an investor standpoint, this is something I would say, like, hey, look, there's no pref on this. I mean, you can do a pref, but it's, more likely it's all going to get paid out at the end.
Well, you could do like an accumulative pref or something.
Yeah. So I mean, you can offer that if they want.
They ain't going. I mean, they may not. They may not get anything for six. But
exactly. That's the thing. I think that's the expectation you have to set.
Well, that's where I'm at. Like, I would be okay with this because I don't like promising something that I know for a fact is not going to happen, and so I would be okay with doing a cumulative pref plus a split or whatever, upon disposition. But but if we are making cash flow, I mean, even if in this scenario, say it is only like $9,400 a year, I don't care if you send them, $1,000, $1,500 or whatever for the year. It ain't much, but it still goes towards that pref, the cumulative pref.
It does.
And it lets them know that you're giving them something. It's like, hey, we're cash flowing, we're just not there yet.
Yeah.
So anyway, food for thought.
And that's and that's a good point. I mean, it's not going to be hitting that 9% threshold each time or whatever the prep is that that you'd have to come up with. But something I'm gonna check, maybe every 6 months or something like that. Like in a semi-annual pay period.
Yeah, just something.
Lets them know that it's happening. Yeah.
And seeing it should get better too. Like year one. I mean, if year one you can buy it, reposition one floor, and say you come out with somewhere around 10 grand. Next year you should be able to come out, rehabbing the second floor. Or not, say it does take. It should not take you a damn year though. I think that's where I'm way off. Is that, I mean, we never done any.
That I had no idea. I can't speak to the timeline on that.
But see, like
you probably have a better idea than I do.
Yeah, when we repurpose these things, or we never repurposed them in the past, we just rehab them, right? So repurposing, what he's talking about is basically tearing down that interior, wall that's split into two units. You're going to be turning one bathroom into a complete kitchen. So there's going to be some plumbing and different things there. But in reality, man, I mean, there's not a whole hell of a lot outside of that other than cosmetics. So, I mean, if you had 30 rooms and you're turn them into 15 apartments, hell, you might be able to do that in 3 months, man. Like I just, because you're going to be going in, you're going to be, busting out walls immediately, demoing one bathroom immediately. And like those can be going on simultaneously. And then one person's going to be repurposing that one bathroom into the kitchen. And you're going to be, I mean, hell, 3 months should be plenty to get pretty darn close. So, I mean, if that's the case, I mean, say you're turning one floor every 3 months, now you're talking about, roughly 9,400 every quarter. And so the first year you may have all three done, and you'd be looking at, in the first year, you'd be somewhere around $27,000-$30,000 in, cash flow that you could give to them. So now if you're and to do that in year one, we would need, that's where we would need 1.5 for the acquisition. And say each floor took $1 million, say 1, 2, 3 million, what I'm saying, like 3 floors, 1, 2, 3 million. So 3 million of, so that's what, 150, that's 450. So you'd be right at 2 million in that case. So if we had, let's say 27,000 divided by, what'd I say? Oh, 2 million divided by 2 million. I mean, that's a 1%, 1.3% return, but it's something though, you know what I'm saying? So, you basically,
and I think that's the key thing is you have to set that expectation.
Exactly.
This is not a value add where it's cash flowing. We're just improving. It's a total renovation. Think of it as a new construction.
Yeah.
New construction means there's little to no income in the first year or two of the business, and then all your money comes at the sale. So it is a higher risk, but that's a higher return as well. And generally, that's what it should correspond to.
And here's what I'd like to look at too with him is, say we do get all 3 floors repurposed in the first year. Say we get them all leased out. Everything's looking good. Well, are we still getting those minimal splits after that? Because he's proposing to hold it for 2 more years. So say there's 1 year of construction, and then 2 more years of a hold before, the exit or whatever. During those 2 years, we should be able to get an increased cash flow.
Yeah. That's really, I think we need to go back and ask that question, because that comes back to what is the split after the pref and operating expenses are taken care of? What is the split? We would just need to see like how he's planning to calculate that, because he's got it. His assumption is oversimplified in the sense that he's basically just looking after total 36-month total.
Exactly.
Project.
Yeah.
But we need to look at it on a month-to-month basis and say, okay, how is this getting broken out so we know what kind of cash flow the GP is getting? But again, understanding that it's going to be barely anything.
Right, at least year to year. Because I don't mind a barely any cash flow during construction period, because and I think people can understand that as well, is that, hey, look, it's hard to get money out of something when you're having to put money in it, and there's really no product there to actually rent at that time. But year 2 and 3, when it's 100% occupied and cash flowing, I don't want to be sitting there saying 3 years before we actually get anything. Because then it's time versus money. A lot of people forget that. You can make a big nut at year 3 when you sell, and say you get a couple million, whatever. Well, you still have to divide that up by 3 years, and you have to divide it by your investors. This is the reason why I'm not a big fan of new construction or anything, because I've been in so many situations to where you end up working your ass off for a period of time. You get that big nut, but then by the time you got all the rearage and paying everything up, back and whatnot, you end up sitting there saying, damn, I worked my ass off for 3 years now. I get the leftovers, and so that's what I'm nervous about.
We need to plan all this up front. And I agree. That's always the big risk of new construction. Like I said, with this, it's, I kind of look at this as the hybrid. It's a hybrid between new construction and value add.
I like it because
I
like it because it could be very quick. Like, the rehab time, I don't think it could be that. I don't think it would be that bad. Like, I like it because the structure's there. It's poised. Right. It's poised for the reposition.
Plumbing, electricity,
right.
all
Everything's there.
You're not having to deal with any of that shit.
The infrastructure's already there. And I don't have really sub-metering or anything, but a lot of your apartments don't neither. So I don't know. It's very intriguing. It's I think it's very opportunistic, but at the same time, what I'm thinking, just putting it out there, is that this guy it sounds like this group's kind of making making a decent offer. But at the same time, if we're going to be taking all the risk and waiting on our money, it may be better if we're going to try this, just do it our damn selves. Raise the full capital, do the whole thing. And that way we're not split, we're not getting 10%. You got to understand, this guy's getting, the LPs in this case are going to be getting 90% of this. There's not a lot of meat left on the bone after 90%, I'll tell you. So.
Yeah. I guess we have to look at kind of what he's contributing to this, right? So he's supposedly, tracking all of these properties, and so we would be leveraging him for that, and going through the auction process and acquiring all of that stuff. So I don't know how much of that is proprietary to him, or if that's something that can be easily, picked over and replicated. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting proposition. I'm trying to think of, what is he bringing to the table? He's obviously bringing 85% of the capital.
Yeah, but he's also taking the lion's share of more than the lion's share of the, of the profit and stuff too. That's, I think raising the capital is, hell, imagine going to an equity shop and making them the same offer, replacing him with an equity shop somewhere and saying, hey, look, we'll give you 90% of the cash flow. We'll basically give you everything. All you got to do is bring 85%. Like I know of some groups that would probably jump all over that, and rightly so. It's like, hey, it's like, hey, look, we're going to, bring 85%, get 9% pref, get 90% of cash flow, a good split on the disposition, that's a very attractive. I can see why he's shopping, put it that way.
Well, yeah, it's a way to scale the business and so forth, and get things going. I don't know. I don't know if it makes sense to try to go off and do one totally ourselves, or do we do one with this guy, go through the process, get it, hopefully turn it out to be a success, and then you can kind of slowly fade out.
Yeah. Well, let's look at that then, because our understanding agreement here, whatever, is it states that basically each deal will still be each deal will be on its own terms, basically, and that at any time you can cancel and stuff like that. So it's not binary to the extent that
you're not locking into long term.
Right, exactly. So maybe we can look at that. Our biggest goal at this point, then, our biggest hurdle would be the $2 million. We basically need to find $2 million that's willing to wait 12 months, and then we also need to get the 3 answers answered. Because I'd like to get, he got this over to me last week when I was traveling, and so I'd like to get him back an answer one way or another. And so maybe we can do a follow up, or maybe I can just email him and see if I can get the answers to the 3 questions they have, and then the like I said, the next piece would be the $2 million. That's one, which I may have that. I actually was talking to a group end of last week that's looking to bring some equity, and they're okay with development. They don't like Tennessee though. They're okay with Texas and Florida, which is fine with me.
Okay.
So
my guys would probably be interested in contributing some of that too.
Okay. Yeah, it's true. They don't have to come from one place.
But yeah, I only brought this up high level to them, so we obviously haven't had any further discussions. Hopefully, they've been fucking out of town again last week, and it's like, it is driving me nuts, man, because I basically served them up like a whole list of like 10 deals, and I'm just like,
waiting.
We need to. They obviously, from our earlier conversations, expressed interest in this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think if we could put together a legitimate plan and get an idea of what is the actual cash flow month to month, not just total project, because that's what makes this difficult, is to say, on his pro forma, he's making some oversimplifications, and so
I'd at least like to see it on like yearly projections, and that way you can sit down. That's the way I'm thinking. He's saying 3 years. I'm saying, okay, well, let's break this down into years. Like year 1, expect nothing. Year 2, expect 5%, return, and then year 3, expect a 7% return. Exit, expect a 30% share. Well, what I'm saying? Like, that's understandable.
Well, I'd like to see it on a month to month.
Yeah.
So we could actually see, what are we spending on, obviously acquisition, all that shit's coming out of up front. But, repair costs, how much we expecting to allocate on a month to month basis. At the same time, at what point do we expect to start being able to rent out or lease some of these units? And, I like to see, like, on a more granular level, what kind of cash flow are we seeing?
Yeah.
And kind of it also helps kind of put in perspective a little bit of a timetable.
Yeah,
so obviously there's going to be fluctuations in that. That's normal. But at least helps kind of paint a picture, and then we can also kind of start to see what are the splits month to month, what's operations, prep, all that stuff are taken out, what is actually, coming to us and going to him.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
that'll help us to be able to say, okay, look, when we're talking to investors, say, look, we're expecting, incremental cash flows, starting in, I don't know, month 3 through 6. It's not going to be much, but you can see, it helps you be able to tell a story about what the plan is.
Exactly.
And I think that's going to be, for something like this, where it's not a value add, you're not getting steady cash flow day one. I think you have to have that. You have to have it detailed out because you have to be able to explain it and help the investors understand where this is all going to. So
I agree.
So I don't know if he's got anything built out month to month. I doubt it. I mean, I could kind of take a crack at it at some point and try to put together, kind of take this total project pro forma and break it out on a month to month type deal. And then we can kind of tweak it and add to it and see what it might actually look like. So,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems interesting.
Well, I'll get him these questions. Let him know that we've talked about it. The what's he called? The memorandum of understanding.
Memorandum of understanding. Yeah, I don't know. MOUs are just such a weird agreement. I mean, it's not like. I mean, I only did one recently myself, and I was trying to figure out what the fuck is that MOU? I was like, never heard of this thing, and so I don't know how binding those agreements technically are, because it's kind of like you're agreeing to making an agreement type thing.
Yeah.
It's not like a definitive contractual agreement. So
yeah. Well, I'll let him know that we reviewed it. I did not let him know that I was traveling last week, so I'll let him know I was traveling. We just got a chance to review it. Had a couple questions. See if we can get those answers those questions. If we can, we'll come back together maybe this week, and if everything sounds good, then we can maybe we can sign this and move forward. Take it one step at a time, and go from there.
That's the main thing, and just making sure that no matter what. From the legal agreement perspective, that no one's getting locked into anything. No one's gonna get blindsided. So even with any of those smaller agreements, so it's good to just double check and triple check, make sure there's not some stupid sentence in there that's gonna just screw you over. But it doesn't sound like that's the case. But I'm always cautious about those things.
Yeah. Okay.
You never know what people's real intentions are.
That is true, my friend.
All right, man. Well, I'll let you get back to it. I guess ping me once you get some answers back to that, and I'll continue looking through some more of this pro forma stuff and see how this might look like, structuring it from an investor perspective. So
okay. Well, also kind of on to the next thing is 85 units here in Knoxville. Still no hiccups with that. So I don't know.
Is that guy's still rocking and rolling with that lady?
I think so. I think as of now, I texted with him yesterday, and he didn't mention anything. So apparently that's still going well, or okay for now. Whatever. We'll see when it comes time to bring up the money. But anyway, that's that. The other deals, I'd like to try to get looking at some of these other deals. I know some of them were, some of them are pretty expensive, but I don't know. I've seen enough deals to know that some of them are not bad. I mean, they may not be home runs, and I think the home runs are getting fewer and farther in between right now. The unicorns, if you will, it's getting harder to find unicorns, but at the same time, some of the, I mean, you can't. It's hard to turn down 7 and 8 caps on multifamily right now. That have value add opportunity. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely getting pricey. It's definitely a seller's market out there, which absolutely sucks. But yeah, no, going through Tom's stuff, and I still, this is all the stuff that I need to catch up